Hare Krishna, Panchakalpatrubhyascha, Kripasindubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So welcome to our reading of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is our second chapter, Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. I'm not going to have any chanting in the beginning because this is a long chapter, and we'll get right into it. I'll just say this: Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. King Kamsa not only occupied the kingdoms of the Yadu, Bhoja, and Andhaka dynasties, and the kingdom of Shurasena, but he also made alliances with all the other demoniac kings as follows: the demon Pralamba, demon Baka, demon Chanura, demon Trinavarta, demon Agasura, demon Mushtika, demon Arista, demon Dvivida, demon Putana, demon Keshi, and demon Denuka. You're familiar with these names, perhaps. At that time, Jarasandha was the king of the Magadha province, known as the present Bihar state. Thus, by his diplomatic policy, Kamsa consolidated the most powerful kingdom of his time under the protection of Jarasandha. He made further alliances with such kings as Banasura and Bhaumasura until he was the strongest. Then he began to behave most inimically toward the Yadu dynasty, into which Krishna was to take his birth. Being harassed, the kings of the Yadu, Bodha, and Andhaka dynasties took shelter in different states, such as the state of the Kurus, the state of the Panchalas, the states known as Kekaya, Shalva, Vidarbha, Nishada, Videha, and Koshala. Kamsa broke the solidarity of the Yadu kingdom, as well as the Bhoja and Andhaka. He made his position the most solid within the vast tract of land known at that time as Bharata Varsha. When Kamsa was killing the 6 babies of Devaki and Vasudeva, one after another, many friends and relatives of Kamsa approached him and requested him to discontinue these heinous activities. But all of them became worshippers of Kamsa. When Devaki became pregnant for the 7th time, a plenary expansion of Krishna, known as Ananta, appeared within her womb. Devaki was overwhelmed with both jubilation and lamentation. She was joyful, for she could understand that Lord Vishnu had taken shelter within her womb, but at the same time she was sorry that as soon as her child would come out, Kamsa would kill him. At that time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, being compassionate upon the Yadus, who were fearful due to the atrocities committed by Kamsa, ordered the appearance of Yoga Maya, his internal potency. Krishna is the Lord of the universe, but he is especially the Lord of the Yadu dynasty. Yoga Maya is the principal potency of the personality of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is stated that the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has multipotencies, Parasha Shaktir, Vividayava, Shruyate. All the different potencies are acting externally and internally. and Yogamaya is the chief of all potencies. The Lord ordered the appearance of Yogamaya in the land of Brajabhumi in Vrindavan, which is always decorated and full with beautiful cows. In Vrindavan, Rohini, one of the wives of Vasudeva, was residing in the house of King Nanda and Queen Yashoda. Not only Rohini, but many others in the Yadu dynasty were scattered all over the country due to their fear of the atrocities of Kamsa. Some of them were even living in the caves in the mountains. The Lord thus informed Yogamaya, under the imprisonment of Kamsa are Devaki and Vasudeva, and at the present moment, my plenary expansion, Shesha, is within the womb of Devaki. You can arrange the transfer of Shesha from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. After this arrangement, I am personally going to appear in the womb of Devaki with my full potencies. Then I shall appear as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, and you shall appear as the daughter of Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan. Since you will appear as my contemporary sister, and since you will quickly satisfy desires for sense gratification, people within the world will worship you with all kinds of valuable presentations, incense, candles, flowers, and offerings of sacrifice. People who are after materialistic perfection will worship you under the different forms of your expansions, which will be named Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kumuda, Chandika, Krishna, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sharada, and Ambika. Krishna and Yogamaya appeared as a brother and sister. The supreme powerful and the supreme power. Although there is no clear distinction between the powerful and the power, power is always subordinate to the powerful. Those who are materialistic are worshippers of the power, but those who are transcendentalist are worshippers of the powerful. Krishna is the supreme powerful, and Durga is the supreme power within the material world. Actually, people in the Vedic culture worship both the powerful and the power. There are many hundreds and thousands of temples of Vishnu and Devi, and sometimes they are worshipped simultaneously. The worshipper of the power, Durga, or the external energy of Krishna, may achieve all kinds of material success very easily. But anyone who wants to be elevated transcendentally must engage in worshiping the powerful in Krishna consciousness. Excuse me. The Lord also declared to Yogamaya, my plenary expansion, Ananta Shesha, is within the womb of Devaki. On account of being forcibly attracted to the womb of Rohini, he will be known as Shankarshana and will be the source of all spiritual power or bala, by which one can attain the highest bliss of life, which is called Ramana. Therefore, the plenary portion, Ananta, will be known after his appearance either as Sankarshana or as Balarama. In the Upanishads, it is stated, Nayam Atma Balahinena Labhyaha. The purport is that one cannot attain the supreme platform of self-realization without being sufficiently favored by Balaram. Bala does not mean physical strength. No one can attain spiritual perfection by physical strength. One must have the spiritual strength, which is infused by Balarama or Shankarshana. Ananta or Sheshanaga is the source of the power which sustains all the planets in their different positions. Materially, this sustaining power is known as the law of gravitation. But actually, it is a display of the potency of Shankarshana. Balarama or Shankarshana is the source of spiritual power, or the original spiritual master. Therefore, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is also the incarnation of Balarama, is the original spiritual master. And the spiritual master is the representative of Balarama, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who supplies spiritual strength. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is confirmed that the spiritual master is the manifestation of the mercy of Krishna. He's here when Prabhupada says that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a quotation there from the Upanishads, Nayam Atma Balahinena Labhyaha, the Mundaka Upanishad. One cannot attain the supreme without the spiritual strength infused by Lord Balaram. Balahinena, without Bala. Thus, ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yogamaya circumambulated the Lord and then appeared within this material world according to his order. When Yogamaya, with the supreme power of the supremely powerful Personality of Godhead, transferred Lord Shesha from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini, both Devaki and Rohini were under Yogamaya's spell, which is called Yoga Nidra. When this was done, people thought that Devaki's 7th pregnancy had been a miscarriage. Thus, although Balaram appeared as the son of Devaki, he was transferred to the womb of Rohini to appear as her son. After this arrangement, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is always ready to protect his unalloyed devotees, entered within the mind of Vasudeva as the Lord of the whole creation, with full, inconceivable potencies. It is understood in this connection that Lord Krishna, first of all, situated himself in the unalloyed heart of Vasudeva, and then was transferred to the heart of Devaki. He was not put into the womb of Devaki by seminal discharge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his inconceivable potency, can appear in any way. It is not necessary for him to appear in the ordinary way by seminal injection within the womb of a woman. When Vasudeva was sustaining the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, he appeared just like the glowing sun, whose shining rays are always unbearable and scorching to the common man. The form of the Lord, situated in the pure, unalloyed heart of Vasudeva, is not different from the original form of Krishna. The appearance of the form of Krishna anywhere, and specifically within the heart, is called Dhamma. Dhamma refers not only to Krishna's form, but also to his name, his qualities, his paraphernalia. Everything becomes manifest simultaneously. The word Dhamma, if I can just say this, basically in Sanskrit means a dwelling place, a house, an abode. But if in the dictionary, there's other meanings of this word, including power, strength, majesty, glory, splendor, light, and so on. That's what Prabhupada is talking about, this Dhamma. Thus, the eternal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with full potencies was transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki, exactly as the setting sun's rays are transferred to the full moon rising in the east. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus entering the body of Devaki from the body of Vasudeva, without being subjected to any of the conditions of an ordinary living entity. Since Krishna was there, it is to be understood that all his plenary expansions, such as Narayana, and incarnations like Lord Nrsimha and Varaha, were with him, and they also were not subject to the conditions of material existence. In this way, Devaki became the residence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is one without a second and the cause of all creation. Devaki became the residence of the Absolute Truth. But because she was confined within the house of Kamsa, she looked just like suppressed fire or like misused education. When fire is kept in a jug, the illuminating rays of the fire cannot be very much appreciated. Similarly, misused knowledge, which does not benefit the people in general, is not very much appreciated. So Devaki was kept within the prison walls of Kamsa's palace, and no one could see her transcendental beauty, which resulted from her conceiving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kamsa, however, saw the transcendental beauty of his sister Devaki, and he at once concluded that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had taken shelter in her womb. She had never before looked so wonderfully beautiful. He could distinctly understand that there was something wonderful within the womb of Devaki. In this way, Kamsa became perturbed because he was sure that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who would kill him in the future, had now come. Kamsa thought, what is to be done with Devaki? Surely she has Vishnu or Krishna within her womb. So it is certain that Krishna has come to execute the mission of the demigods. And even if I immediately kill Devaki, his mission cannot be frustrated. Kamsa knew very well that no one can frustrate the purpose of Vishnu. Any intelligent man can understand that the laws of God cannot be violated. His purpose will be served in spite of all impediments offered by the demons. Kamsa thought, if I kill Devaki at the present moment, Vishnu will enforce his supreme will more vehemently. To kill Devaki now, just now, would be a most abominable act. No one desires to kill his reputation, even in an awkward situation. If I kill Devaki now, my reputation will be spoiled. Devaki is a woman. She is under my shelter. She is pregnant. And if I kill her, immediately my reputation, the results of my pious activities, and my duration of life will all be diminished. He further deliberated, a person who is too cruel is as good as dead, even in this lifetime. No one likes a cruel person during his lifetime, and after his death, people curse him. On account of his self-identification with the body, he must be degraded and pushed into the darkest region of hell. Kamsa thus meditated on all the pros and cons of killing Devaki at that time. Kamsa finally decided not to kill Devaki right away, but to wait for the inevitable future. But his mind became absorbed in animosity against the personality of Godhead. He patiently waited for the delivery of the child, expecting to kill him as he had done previously with the other babies of Devaki. Thus being merged into the ocean of animosity against the personality of Godhead, he began to think of Krishna or Vishnu while sitting, while sleeping, while walking, while eating, while working, in all the situations of his life. His mind became so much absorbed with the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that indirectly he could see only Krishna or Vishnu around him. Unfortunately, although his mind was so absorbed in the thought of Vishnu, he is not recognized as a devotee because he was thinking of Krishna as an enemy. The state of mind of a great devotee is also to be absorbed in Krishna, but a devotee thinks of him favorably, not unfavorably. To think of Krishna favorably is Krishna consciousness, but to think of Krishna unfavorably is not Krishna consciousness. At this time, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada, and followed by many other demigods, invisibly appeared in the house of Kamsa. They began to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in select verses, which are very pleasing to the devotees and which award fulfillment of their desires. The first words they spoke acclaim that the Lord is true to his vow. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna descends to this material world just to protect the pious and to destroy the impious, or as they say in other parts of the English-speaking word, impious. That is his vow. The demigods could understand that the Lord has taken his residence within the womb of Devaki to fulfill his vow, and they were very glad that the Lord was appearing in order to fulfill his mission. Then the demigods addressed the Lord as Satyam Param, or the supreme absolute truth. Everyone is searching after the truth. That is the philosophical way of life. The demigods give information that the supreme absolute truth is Krishna. One who becomes fully Krishna conscious can obtain the absolute truth. Krishna is the absolute truth because, unlike relative truth, he is truth in all three phases of eternal time. Time is divided into past, present, and future. Krishna is truth always, past, present, and future. In the material world, everything is being controlled by supreme time in the course of past, present, and future. But before the creation, Krishna was existing. And when there is creation, everything is resting in Krishna. And when the creation is finished, Krishna will remain. Therefore, he is the absolute truth in all circumstances. If there is any truth within this material world, it emanates from the supreme truth, Krishna. If there's any opulence within this material world, the cause of the opulence is Krishna. If there's any reputation within this material world, the cause of the reputation is Krishna. If there is any strength within this material world, the cause of such strength is Krishna. If there's any wisdom and education within this material world, the cause of such wisdom and education is Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is the source of all relative truths. This material world is composed of 5 principal elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And all such elements are emanations from Krishna. I'd like to just mention here that in the Bhaktivedanta Institute, when we came to earth, water, fire, air, and ether, we called it solids, liquids, gases, radiant energy, and space. Much more sophisticated to other people, but that's what it is. So those are the 5 elements: solids, liquid, gases, radiant energy, and space. The material scientists accept these 5 primary elements as the cause of the material manifestation. But the elements in their gross and subtle states are produced by Krishna. The living entities who are working within this material world are products of his marginal potency. In the 7th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that the whole manifestation is a combination of 2 energies of Krishna, the superior and the inferior energy. The living entities are the superior energy, and the dead material elements are his inferior energy. In its dormant stage, everything remains in Krishna. The demigods continued to offer their respectful prayers unto the supreme form of the personality of Godhead Krishna by analytical study of the material manifestation. What is this material manifestation? It is just like a tree. A tree stands on the ground. Similarly, the tree of the material manifestation is standing on the ground of material nature. This material manifestation is compared to a tree because a tree is cut off in due course of time. The tree is called vriksha. Vriksha means that which will be ultimately cut off. Therefore, this tree of the material manifestation cannot be accepted as the ultimate truth because it is influenced by time. But Krishna's body is eternal. He existed before the material manifestation. He is existing while the material manifestation is continuing, and when it will be dissolved, he will continue to exist. Thus, only Krishna can be accepted as the absolute truth. The Katha Upanishad also cites this example of the tree of the material manifestation standing on the ground of material nature. This tree has 2 kinds of fruits: distress and happiness. Those who are living in the tree of the body are just like 2 birds. One bird is the localized aspect of Krishna known as the Paramatma, and the other bird is the living entity. The living entity is eating the fruits of this material manifestation. Sometimes he eats the fruit of happiness, and sometimes he eats the fruit of distress. But the other bird is not interested in eating the fruit of distress or happiness because he is self-satisfied. The Katha Upanishad states that the one bird on the tree of the body is eating the fruits, and the other bird is simply witnessing. The roots of this tree extend in three directions. This means that the root of the tree is the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Just as the tree's roots expand, so by association of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. The tastes of the fruits are of four kinds: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation. Dharma, Kama, Moksha. According to the different associations in the three modes of material nature, the living entities are tasting different kinds of religiosity, different kinds of economic development, different kinds of sense gratification, and different kinds of liberation. Practically all material work is performed in ignorance, but because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered with goodness or passion. The taste of these material fruits is accepted through five senses. The five sense organs through which knowledge is acquired are subject to six kinds of whips: lamentation, illusion, infirmity, death, hunger, and thirst. The material body, or the material manifestation, is covered by 7 layers: muscle, blood, marrow, bone, fat, and semen. The branches of the tree are 8: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. There are 9 gates in the body: 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 genital organ, 1 rectum. And there are 10 kinds of air, internal airs passing within the body: prana, apana, udana, vyana, samana, and so on. The 2 birds sitting in this tree, as explained above, are the living entity and the localized Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma. The root cause of the material manifestation described here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself to take charge of the 3 qualities of the material world. Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness. Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahma, by the mode of passion, creates this manifestation. Lord Vishnu maintains this manifestation by the mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva annihilates it by the mode of ignorance. The whole creation ultimately rests in the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And when the whole manifestation is dissolved in its subtle form as his energy, it rests within his body. Now we go back to the prayers of the demigods. At present, the demigods prayed, the Supreme Lord Krishna is appearing just for the maintenance of this manifestation. Actually, the supreme cause is one, but less intelligent persons, being deluded by the 3 modes of material nature, see that the material world is manifest through different causes. Those who are intelligent can see that the cause is one, Krishna. As it is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Paramaha Krishna, Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of all causes. Brahma is the deputed agent for Krishna. Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna for maintenance, and Lord Shiva is the expansion of Krishna for dissolution. Our dear Lord, the demigods prayed, it is very difficult to understand your eternal form or personality. People in general are unable to understand your actual form. Therefore, you are personally descending to exhibit your original, eternal form. Somehow people can understand the different incarnations of your lordship, but they are puzzled to understand the eternal form of Krishna with two hands, moving among human beings exactly like one of them. This eternal form of your lordship gives ever increasing transcendental pleasure to the devotees. But for the non-devotees, this form is very dangerous. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very pleasing to the sadhus, paritranayam naya sadhunam. But this form is very dangerous to the demons because Krishna also descends to kill the demons. He is therefore simultaneously pleasing to the devotees and dangerous to the demons. Quotation marks, going back to the demigods. Speaking, our dear lotus-eyed Lord, you are the source of pure goodness. There are many sages who simply by samadhi or transcendentally meditating upon your lotus feet and thus being absorbed in your thought have easily transformed the great ocean of nescience created by the material nature into no more than the water in a calf's hoofprint. The purpose of meditation is to focus the mind on the personality of Godhead beginning from his lotus feet. Simply by meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages cross over this vast ocean of material existence without difficulty. Quotation marks again. O self-illuminated one, the great saintly persons who have crossed over the ocean of nescience by the help of the transcendental boat of your lotus feet have not taken away that boat. It is still lying on this side. Close quotes. If one takes a boat to cross over a river, the boat also goes with one to the other side of the river. And so when one reaches the destination, how can the same boat be available to those who are still on this side? To answer this difficulty, the demigods say in their prayer that the boat of the Lord's lotus feet is not taken away. The devotees still remaining on this side are able to pass over the ocean of material nature because the pure devotees do not take the boat with them when they cross over. When one simply approaches material nature, when one simply approaches the boat, this is a great, when one simply approaches the boat, the whole ocean of material nescience is reduced to the size of water in a calf's hoofprint. Therefore, the devotees do not need to take the boat to the other side. They simply cross the ocean immediately. Because the great saintly persons are compassionate toward all conditioned souls, the boat is still lying on this side. In other words, one can meditate upon the lotus feet of the Lord at any time, and by so doing, one can cross over the great ocean of material existence. Meditation means concentration on the lotus feet of the Lord. Lotus feet indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Padapadma. There's a holy place called Padapadma Tirtha Parapadma. That's where Lord Chaitanya began his revelation of his personality, the Parapadma Tirtha. But those who are impersonalists do not recognize the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore their object of meditation is something impersonal. The demigods express their mature verdict that persons who are interested in meditating on something void or impersonal cannot cross over the ocean of nescience. Such persons are simply imagining that they have become liberated. Quotations. O lotus-eyed Lord, their intelligence is contaminated because they fail to meditate upon the lotus feet of your lordship. As a result of this neglectful activity, the impersonalists fall down again into the material way of conditioned life, although they may temporarily rise to the point of impersonal realization. Prabhupada continues, impersonalists undergo severe austerities and penances to merge themselves into the Brahman effulgence, or impersonal Brahman existence. But their minds are not free from material contamination. They have simply tried to negate the material way of thinking. That does not mean they have become liberated. Thus, they fall down. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the impersonalist has to undergo great tribulation in realizing his ultimate goal. At the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also stated that without devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot achieve liberation from the bondage of fruitive activities. The statement of Lord Krishna is there in the Bhagavad Gita, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, the statement of the great sage Narada is there, and here also the demigods confirm it. Quoting, persons who have not taken to devotional service are understood to have come short of the ultimate purpose of knowledge and are not favored by your grace. Now, Prabhupada's voice, the impersonalists simply think they are liberated, but actually they have no feeling for the personality of Godhead because they think that when Krishna comes into the material world, he accepts a material body. They therefore overlook the transcendental body of Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Avajanati mam mudha. In spite of conquering material lust and rising to the point of liberation, the impersonalists fall down. If they are engaged just in knowing things for the sake of knowledge and do not take to the devotional service of the Lord, they cannot achieve the desired result. Their achievement is the trouble they take, and that is all. It is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that to realize Brahman identification is not all. Brahman identification may help one become joyful without material attachment or detachment and to achieve the platform of equanimity. But after this stage, one has to take to the devotional service. When one takes to devotional service, after being elevated to the platform of Brahman realization, he is then admitted into the spiritual kingdom for permanent residence in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the result of devotional service. Those who are devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead never fall down like the impersonalists. Even if the devotees fall down, they remain affectionately attached to their Lord. They can meet all kinds of obstacles on the path of devotional service, and freely, without any fear, they can surmount such obstacles. Because of their surrender, they are certain that Krishna will always protect them, as it is promised by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. My devotees are never vanquished. Our dear Lord, the demigods continued, you have appeared in your original eternal form of unalloyed goodness for the welfare of all living entities within this material world. Taking advantage of your appearance, all of them can now very easily understand the nature and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Persons who belong to the four divisions of the social order, the brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, can all take advantage of your appearance. Dear Lord, husband of the goddess of fortune, devotees who have dovetailed in your service do not fall down from their high position like the impersonalists. Being protected by you, the devotees are able to traverse over the heads of many of Maya's commanders-in-chief who can always put stumbling blocks on the path of liberation. Dear Lord, you appear in your eternal transcendental form for the benefit of the living entities so that they can see you face to face and offer their worshipful sacrifices by ritualistic performance of the Vedas, mystic meditation, and devotional service as recommended in the scriptures. Dear Lord, if you did not appear in your eternal transcendental form, full of bliss and knowledge, a form which can eradicate all kinds of speculative ignorance about your position, then all people would simply speculate about you according to their respective modes of material nature. Prabhupada continues to explain, the appearance of Krishna is the answer to all imaginative iconography of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone imagines the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to his mode of material nature. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord is the oldest person. Therefore, a section of religionists imagine that God must be very old, and therefore they depict a form of the Lord as a very old man. But in the same Brahma Samhita, that is contradicted. Although he is the oldest of all living entities, he has his eternal form as a fresh youth. The exact words used in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vijnanam Agyanam Vedapamarjanam. Vijnanam means transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vijnanam is also experienced knowledge. Transcendental knowledge has to be accepted by the descending process of disciplic succession, as Brahma presents the knowledge of Krishna in the Brahma Samhita. The Brahma Samhita is Vijnanam as realized by Brahma's transcendental experience. And in that way, he presented the form and the pastimes of Krishna in the transcendental abode. This knowledge is Agyanam Vidaparamarjanam, that which can smash all kinds of speculation in ignorance. People are imagining the form of the Lord. Sometimes he has no form, and sometimes he has form according to their different imaginations. But the presentation of Krishna in the Brahma Samhita is Vijnanam, scientific experience knowledge given by Lord Brahma and accepted by Lord Chaitanya. There's no doubt about it. Krishna's form, Krishna's flute, Krishna's color. Everything is reality. Here it is said that this Vijnanam is always defeating all kinds of speculative knowledge. Now, this is in quotation marks. Therefore, without your appearing as Krishna, you, as you are, neither ajnana vidaparmarjanam, destruction of the nescience of speculative knowledge, nor Vijnanam would be realized. In other words, your appearance will vanquish the ignorance of speculative knowledge and establish the real experience knowledge of authorities like Lord Brahma. I may mention here that the word science, modern world science, when that's translated into Sanskrit as samtanda, that's what they use, Vijnanam. It's experienced knowledge. When Prabhu calls it scientific, that's how it's used in Sanskrit. So here we have the real experienced knowledge of authorities like Lord Brahma. Men influenced by the three modes of material nature imagine their own God according to the modes of material nature. In this way, God is presented in various ways, but your appearance will establish what the real form of God is. And Prabhupada continues, the highest blunder committed by the impersonalists is to think that when the incarnation of God comes, he accepts the form of matter in the mode of goodness. Actually, the form of Krishna or Narayana is transcendental to any material idea. Even the greatest impersonalist, Shankaracharya, has admitted Narayana paro vyaktat. The material creation is caused by the avyakta, impersonal manifestation of matter, or the non-phenomenal, total reservoir of matter. But Krishna is transcendental to that material conception. You could call it primordial, undifferentiated matter. He's beyond that. This is experienced, that is expressed, that is to say, this transcendental position, that is expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam as Vishuddha Sattva, or transcendental goodness. Not just Sattva, but Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha.
This edition says Shuddha Sattva.
This one, well, my version is Vishuddha Sattva. Purified goodness, not just material goodness, but goodness. In the material goodness, there's a little of ignorance and passion, you know. But when there's Shuddha Sattva or Vishuddha Sattva, I mean, the V is like a kind of, you know, intensifier. Mean the same thing, is this transcendental goodness. So there's Vishuddha Sattva or Shuddha Sattva. He does not belong to the material mode of goodness, and he is above the position of material goodness. He belongs to the transcendental, eternal status of bliss and knowledge. So some places it's some iterations of the Krishna book, it's Shuddha Sattva, and then sometimes it's Vishuddha Sattva. Either way, it works. The demigods are continuing now. Dear Lord, when you appear in your different incarnations, you take different names and forms according to your different situations. Lord Krishna is your name because you are all attractive. You are called Shaima Sundar because of your transcendental beauty. Shaima means blackish, yet it is said that you are more beautiful than thousands of cupids. Kandar Pakoti Kabaniya. Although you appear in a color which is compared to the blackish cloud, because you are transcendental absolute, your beauty is many, many times more attractive than the delicate body of Cupid. Sometimes you are called Giridhari because you lifted the hill known as Govardhan. You are sometimes called Nandanandana or Vasudeva or Devakinandana because you appear as the son of Maharaj Nanda or Vasudeva or Devaki. Impersonalists think that your many names or forms are given according to a particular type of work and quality because they accept you from the position of a material observer. Our dear Lord, the way of understanding is not to study your absolute nature, form, and activities by mental speculation. One must engage himself in devotional service. Then one can understand your absolute nature and your transcendental form, name, and qualities. Actually, only a person who has a little taste for the service of your lotus feet can understand your transcendental nature or form and qualities. Others may go on speculating for millions of years, but it is not possible for them to understand even a single part of your actual position. Close quotation marks. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna cannot be understood by the non-devotees because there is a curtain of Yoga Maya which covers Krishna's actual features. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya, the Lord says, I am not exposed to anyone and everyone. When Krishna came, he was actually present on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and everyone saw him. But not everyone could understand that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, everyone who died in his presence attained complete liberation from material bondage and was transferred to the spiritual world. So now again in quotation marks, vocalizing the demigods, somewhat paraphrasing the verses, but this is their voice. O Lord, the impersonalists or non-devotees cannot understand that your name is identical with your form. Then Prabhupada says, since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his name and his actual form. In the material world, there's a difference between form and name. The mango fruit is different from the name of the mango. One cannot taste the mango fruit simply by chanting mango, mango, mango. But the devotee who knows that there is no difference between the name and the form of the Lord chants Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and realizes that he is always in Krishna's company. This is realized knowledge. For persons who are not very advanced in absolute knowledge of the Supreme, Lord Krishna exhibits his transcendental pastimes. Such persons can simply think of the pastimes of the Lord and get full benefit. Since there is no difference between the transcendental name and form of the Lord, there is no difference between the transcendental pastimes and the form of the Lord. For those who are less intelligent, like women, laborers, or the mercantile class, this great sage Vyasadeva wrote the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, Krishna is present in his different activities. The Mahabharata is history, and simply by studying, hearing, and memorizing, The transcendental activities of Krishna recounted therein, the less intelligent can also gradually rise to the standard of pure devotees. The inclusion of women in this list strikes us as difficult these days, but I was with Srila Prabhupada, and he was being interviewed by a woman reporter who was not very smart, and he made some disparaging remarks. And one of my god sisters listened to this, and then when everybody had sort of cleared off, she said to Srila Prabhupada, this was Vishaka, she said, is it true in this movement that the women are less intelligent than the men? And Prabhupada's eyes got big, and he says, no, when you become a devotee, your brain grows. He had talked about ounces of gray matter and stuff. So I realized that, anyway, so just remember, your brain grows. We continue. The pure devotees who are always absorbed in the thought of the transcendental lotus feet of Krishna, and who are always engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, are never to be considered to be in the material world. Srila Rupa Goswami has explained that those who are always engaged in Krishna consciousness with body, mind, and activities are to be considered liberated even within this body. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord have already transcended the material position. Krishna appears in order to give a chance to both the devotees and the non-devotees for realization of the ultimate goal of life. The devotees get the direct chance to see him and worship him. Those who are not on that platform get the chance to become acquainted with his activities and thus become elevated to the same position. Back to quotation marks now. Our dear Lord, O Supreme Controller, when you appear on earth, all the demons like Kamsa and Jarasandha will be vanquished, and all good fortune will be ushered into this world, into the world. When you walk on the globe, your lotus feet will impress on the ground the marks of your souls, such as the flag, the trident, and the thunderbolt. Thus you will grace both the earth and us on the heavenly planets, who shall see those marks. O dear Lord, the demigods continued, you are unborn, and therefore we do not find any reason for your appearance other than for your pleasurable pastimes. Although the reason for the appearance of the Lord is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, he descends just to give protection to the devotees and vanquish the non-devotees. Actually, he descends for his, excuse me, I have to take a little water. Actually, he descends for his pleasure meeting. This is a hyphenated word, for his pleasure meeting with the devotees, not really to vanquish the non-devotees. The non-devotees can be vanquished simply by one kick of material nature. Quotation marks. The actions and reactions of material nature, creation, maintenance, and annihilation, are being carried out automatically. But simply by taking shelter of your holy name, the devotees are fully protected, because your holy name and your personality are none different. Close quotes. The protection of the devotees and the annihilation of the non-devotees are not actually the business of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he descends, it is just for his transcendental pleasure. There cannot be any other reason for his appearance. Higher level. Now, again, quotation marks. Our dear Lord, you are appearing as the best of the Yadu dynasty, and we are offering our respectful, humble obeisances unto your lotus feet. Before this appearance, you also appeared as the fish incarnation, as the horse incarnation, as the tortoise incarnation, as the half-man, half-lion incarnation, as the boar incarnation, as the swan incarnation, as King Ramachandra, as Parashurama, and as many other incarnations. You appear just to protect the devotees, and we request you, in your present appearance, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, to give us similar protection all over the three worlds and remove all obstacles for the peaceful execution of our lives. Now the demigods address Devaki. Dear Mother Devaki, within your womb is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing along with all his plenary extensions. He is the original personality of Godhead, appearing for our welfare. Therefore, you should not be afraid of your brother, the king of Bhoja. Your son, Lord Krishna, who is the original personality of Godhead, will appear for the protection of the pious Yadu dynasty. The Lord is appearing not alone, but accompanied by his immediate plenary portion, Baladeva. Prabhupada continues. Devaki was very much afraid of her brother Kamsa because he had already killed so many of her children. So she was very anxious about Krishna. In the Vishnu Purana, it is stated that in order to pacify Devaki, all the demigods, along with their wives, used to visit her to encourage her not to be afraid that her son would be killed by Kamsa. Krishna, who was within her womb, was to appear not only to diminish the burden of the world, but specifically to protect the interests of the Yadu dynasty, and certainly to protect Devaki and Vasudeva. It is understood that Krishna had been transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki, and from there to her womb. Thus Devaki, the mother of Krishna, was worshipable for all the demigods. After thus worshiping the transcendental form of the Lord, all the demigods, with Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva placed in front, departed for their heavenly abodes. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport, the second chapter of Krishna, prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb.
All right. So if anybody has any questions or comments, if you're on Zoom, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask a question that way. And if you are on Facebook, you can type in your question and I'll read it out loud. Can people on, well, actually, let me get closer to the mic here. So here's a question from Kaveri. She asked, how to reconcile the idea of people from other religions that might not be considered personalists can achieve perfection through bhakti while maintaining those practices, and what is explained about impersonalist activities / religious goals? Thank you.
What was that last part?
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, just start over again.
How to reconcile the idea of people from other religions that might not be considered personalists can achieve perfection through bhakti while maintaining those practices, those impersonal practices, And what is explained about impersonalist activities and religious goals?
Well, the my understanding is that Prabhupada said once, it's all right to be a personalist if you haven't heard about Krishna. So at least people who are impersonalists are transcendentalists that want to at least become free from the material world and want to seek something higher. Uh, uh, and so Prabhupada never required that, for example, people who worship a personal God but are not Vaishnavas, they don't worship Krishna. They may worship Allah, Jesus, or some. As long as you have the idea that that's the Supreme Lord, he never said they had to stop. They could continue and do that. So there really is only one religion, and Prabhupada only wanted people like Christians to chant the name of God, because that's the Yuga Dharma. For example, in the Mass, the Christian Mass, the parts of it are really chantable, especially what's in Greek, Kyrie eleison Christe, eleison Kyrie eleison Christ. You can chant that all the time. Christe eleison, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Kyrie eleison Christe eleison. That'll get you somewhere because you'll have your mind focused on God. That's the method. So it's and people become impersonalists just because the idea that the absolute truth is a person, they've either been discouraged from thinking that way, or they think it's something imaginary and that the impersonal is higher. But Prabhupada establishes very well, to me, like a real revelation, how the personal form of the Lord is actually the highest form, and give us something by which we can have experience of that personal form. And one can do that in other theistic religions also.
Kendra Prabhu asks, who is Krishna's sister born to Nanda and Yashoda? Is this Subhadra? Did she live in Vrindavan? I don't recall hearing about her after the maternity room switcheroo.
No, it's Subhadra, yeah. Of course, we really, she gets honored now with between Lord Jagannath and, and Lord Balaram, but she's Yoga Maya, and I think too, there are other places where there are temples of Yoga Maya, but usually for us the prominent position of Yoga Maya is Subhadra.
Kendra then adds, he says, interesting how even though Kamsa considered that Krishna was destined to kill him and that Krishna's mission cannot be frustrated, Kamsa never thought, maybe I should ask Krishna nicely not to kill me.
Yeah.
And Kaylee Lalita commented that the movements of prana are used in yoga asana.
Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm.
And Adi Devi Dasi, she asks, Hare Krishna Gurudev, what should be our attitude to someone who is in the mode of ignorance, who is living with us? It's very sad to see the person lazying away and wasting the valuable human existence. It can sometimes be very annoying too when others are trying to practice devotional service and the person does not care about basics as well. How should we deal with such a person?
Well, there are various methods, but sometimes you have to put up with things that you can't change, and you have to learn how to do a workaround. But the best you can do for people like that is give them prasadam and things like that. But it's a little hard. If you are in an environment that's not entirely, if your mind is focused on spiritual advancement, and something in your environment and circumstances is impeding things, go as far as you can under the circumstances to make advancement. And if that's what your sincere desire and you're doing whatever you can do to make advancement, the modes of ignorance and passion may be in our own minds. So you just get rid of that, clean up that dirty room first, the subtle body. And when you've made as much advancement as you can make under whatever circumstances you're in, you'll see that Krishna will change the circumstances. That's the experience of myself and a lot of devotees.
Gaura Shakti Prabhu comments, he says, random, but I just noticed that the George Harrison quote at the front of the Krishna book is from 3/31/1970, 50 years ago today.
Wow. Thank you for pointing that out. The 50th anniversary of the George Harrison quote.
And Kendra Prabhu comments, he says, the favorite sentence of this chapter, quote, the appearance of Krishna is the answer to all imaginative iconography of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Isn't that a great sentence? It's always been one of my favorite ones.
Okay, and there's a lot of thanks to you for class, and I'll share those with you after class.
Well, thank everybody for that. Was a little bit of a marathon. It was a long and a lot of people skipped that chapter to get onto the action, but it's there, and Prabhupada spent time on it, and we should go through it too.
Okay, I think that's it for today.
Okay, then next week.
We'll resume Krishna book next Tuesday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And there's also Bhagavatam class on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, if anybody's wanting to join.
Thank you very much. In this difficult time, it's good that we're getting together and doing something during the close down time, the plague time. I hope you all are well. Hare Krishna.